You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Handsome Aaron Airport. It's episode 165, and it's basically summer outside. Did you get any sun on you yet?
I did. This weather has been incredible the past 2 days. I've been begging for this for a long time. We got small little tastes of it over the past couple of weeks, but generally it's cold and wet. But today and yesterday has felt like summer, and I've been trying to enjoy it as much as possible, going for walks at the lake and just soaking it in, just bathing in this sun.
Yeah, I've been doing the same. I've been living it up. But with the hot weather comes one of my least favorite things, June bugs. I heard them last night bashing their crunchy bodies against my windows, which is a sure sign of summer here in Nova Scotia. But the things are disgusting. We've been through this before on Keep Canada Weird. I'm interested in any June bug stories from the listeners out there.
Yeah, I can't say the same, but sure, we'll take them. But I try to love all of God's creatures equally, and June bugs, I really have a hard time putting myself in their shoes.
It's hard to relate to them.
I don't understand what they want, what they need. I don't understand why they exist. I'm not gonna intentionally kill a June bug ever. Of course, I will never do that. In fact, some people give me a lot of flack for my insect policy inside the house. I try not to kill bugs that are inside the house.
Really? Okay.
What's your policy?
Oh, I'd say if they invade, they're foreign invaders in my kingdom here, and I have to deal with them swiftly and violently. That's kind of my policy.
Violently, okay. Well, last night, for example, I was laying in bed. The cat was on bed with me as well. We just, settled in for the night, and he jumps off the bed kind of swiftly and abruptly. And I think to myself, oh, that's never a good sign. But I just kind of ignore it. I'm watching, a show on my iPad to fall asleep, and I just hear zzz. Oh, God. So I get up out of bed. I turn the light off, and there's the light on, sorry. And there's my cat, Ken Tiggs, staring into the corner, and there's a wasp right there.
Ooh, in your house. Okay, that's scary.
Yeah. And so he's caught it, and he's got his paw on it, and he's holding it down. And then I've witnessed my cat catch many things over the years, in particular mice. And what he does when he catches anything is he likes to catch it, hold it, let it go for a little bit, and then re-catch it, and then repeat that process over and over until it's dead. And that's because then he gets to enjoy it as much as possible, as opposed to killing it right away. So then, anyway, I got up. I saw that he was torturing this poor wasp, so I went and got, a plastic container and a piece of paper. I captured the wasp, slid the paper underneath the container, and then I got him outside, still alive.
Okay.
And the cat was not happy with me. He wanted to continue the waterboarding and the tell me everything you know about wasps interrogation. But yeah, wasps, not to keep dwelling on this, but wasps used to be the only insect that I would kill in my house because they're so erratic, right?
Yeah.
And they can sting you multiple times, and there's that whole problem with it. But lately, I've been trying to see if I can capture and release them, and successfully last night I did. So I'm very happy about that.
Congrats. I want to unveil something for you before we start the week's Weird Canadian News Roundup. I have a special drink tonight, and although it's only a Coke Zero, there is something special about it.
Oh my God.
Tell the people what I'm holding here.
You're holding a Coke Zero bottle that has your name on it.
Yeah, I know it's a gimmick. Like you go into the Walmart or whatever, and there's all the Coke cans or bottles, and they have different names on it. Like that's a thing they do right now.
It is, yeah.
I was just at Walmart the other day and looking me right in the eye from their little refrigerator freezer was a Coke that said Jordan.
Wow.
You got anything there before we
I
get
don't have
started?
anything special, although it is special because, it's water, and water is the giver of life. They've got it on Mars, so we've got it here too.
You got it here in your cup. Before we get started here, I want to play one voicemail. Remember last week we started the show with a submission to the New Kids on the Block prize pack giveaway. We awarded the first prize pack. I said all you got to do is email me, give me your mailing address. I'll send the New Kids on the Block prize pack to you. I didn't get an email. I didn't get an address, but I did get from a different person, another listener named Lakeisha. She had a submission for the New Kids on the Block prize pack. I'll let you decide. Should I send her a New Kids on the Block thing?
Okay.
I'm just calling to talk about the New Kids on the Block giveaway, and wanted to let you know that New Kids on the Block saved my life when I was in junior high school. I used to be bullied, and the only people that would talk to me is those other people that like New Kids on the Block. And I love them. I go to every concert whenever they come to Phoenix, and they really, really make my heart really warm because they were there when I was in a really hard time in my life. And I would like to win a New Kids on the Block item. Thank you so much. Keep Canada weird.
I had the opposite experience. Being a young guy during the height of New Kids on the Block craze, having the first name Jordan, the same first name as a new kid, I was bullied by people who would be like, "Why don't you dance, Jordan?" I'd be like, "I'm not Jordan Knight."
Yeah. Dance monkey.
Anyway, long story short, New Kids on the Block all but saved her life. She was being bullied in school, and it seems like she found support amongst a group of New Kids on the Block fans. I like to think they started like a New Kids on the Block gang, and they fought back against the bullies. Should I send them a coloring book or something?
No.
No?
No. Sorry.
Aaron won't send you one. I have a big heart, and that story's good enough for me. Lakeisha, get at me. Send me an email to nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and I will send some New Kids stuff right down to Arizona for you. Thank you for hanging tough back in high school. Let's get on.
Hold on.
What?
Hanging tough. Did you have that locked and loaded, or did that just come to you?
It actually just came to me.
Okay, good. That's good. I like that. It really applied because, there was the perseverance that she had during these, tough times, and hanging tough is an anthem for that.
Yeah, she did it. Well, let's get into it. We're going to do something special tonight. Of course, we're going to keep Canada weird by seeking out, exploring, highlighting, cringing at, or celebrating all the unique and offbeat news stories that played out across Canada over the past week. But what's going to be unique tonight is we're going to get the chance to solve two stories from our prior episode. We're left so often scratching our head trying to understand what led to a strange situation that we're gawking over, that we're falling over. Tonight, we can solve two of them. Let's start with how the psychic fugitive from episode 164 was caught.
Allegedly driving drunk on this road in Florida, prosecutors say Patrick Lutz Jr. crashed his pickup truck, killing 19-year-old Nancy Lopez and her boyfriend on Christmas morning 1998. A fugitive for more than 2 decades, Lutz has now been found and arrested after leading a double life in Toronto, working as a self-styled psychic.
We wanted to know what led to him getting caught. Who was the tipster? How this all came to be? We speculated that it was probably an ex-girlfriend or someone he revealed too much to. The truth turns out to be much stranger than that. I'm going to read you a little bit here. He was caught after an anonymous internet sleuth claims they contacted the family of one of his victims with a startling message. They simply said, "I need to talk to you about Patrick Lutz." The tipster claimed to have used facial recognition technology to find Lutz appearing in some social media posts, then further followed the clues and breadcrumbs that ultimately led to his new life and identity. The anonymous sleuth provided images The anonymous sleuth provided images from Lutz's Facebook profile, gave his fake name, and even gave the family the bar where he worked, prompting them to alert law enforcement, which ultimately led to his arrest. Shortly after sharing the information with the victim's family, the anonymous sleuth disappeared from social media and deleted their accounts. Aaron, in the end, what ends up happening is it was solved by just some random, I guess, like Dick Tracy hacker type person.
Yeah, that it's so rare for us because that was the big question on our minds when we covered this story was who's the anonymous tipper? What's their motivation? What's their background? How did this happen? And we got the answers. It's an online dog the bounty hunter type individual who just wants to find unsolved cases and solve them.
Yeah.
And this was somebody who had been on the run and had disappeared and was a fugitive and had made their way to Toronto. And this random person online found out that, this case existed and solved it. It's amazing.
Yeah, using facial recognition. So I guess that's just finding like a photo of the person of Patrick Lutz from his wanted photo sort of thing, running that through some type of software, and it managed to find a couple matches with like photos on Facebook. Remember, he was hosting like kind of like trivia nights and this sort of thing.
Yeah, it was like a horror movie monthly trivia night.
Yeah, so his photo was probably appearing in other people's Facebook profiles that would be wide open and such. So I'm thinking that's probably how the connection was made, and then this random anonymous web sleuth, armchair detective type person just continued plugging away, quickly solved the case, contacted the family, and it's done. And then they just disappear into the abyss of the internet, which I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, the internet has many abysses to disappear into, and this online anonymous sleuth had picked an abyss, went into it, and until next time, gadget.
Yeah, and even like reading a little bit about it, they had this anonymous sleuth seems to have no connection to the case. They just came upon it in some message board. I think there was like an America's Most Wanted themed message board that someone had mentioned this case, and the anonymous sleuth just said, I'll give it a shot, and solved it. I'm surprised they don't get some credit for it. The family went on the news to say, like, we would love to be able to get in touch with them so we can thank them, which I can only imagine. Like, because we've said ourselves in last week's episode, like, this is someone you want caught. I think this person deserves some praise. So, anonymous sleuth, if you, in your free time, also listen to Keep Canada Weird, we salute you.
We do salute you. And if you ever want to reveal your secret identity to the world, come on the show. Well, we'd be happy to have you.
I'll give you a New Kids thing.
No. These are starting to get less and less special. You're giving them out to anybody with a pulse now.
That's true.
This is crazy. You've got to have some checks and balances here. People need a few hoops to jump through. And
yeah, you're right.
Although impressive that this anonymous person was to solve this, decades-long case, I don't think it warrants a New Kids prize pack.
Okay. Well, let's take our first ad break of the night. When we get back, we're going to solve another case, maybe even more interesting than the anonymous tipster sleuth who solved the psychic fugitive. We're going to hear about how Kenzie from episode 164 actually ended up on the lam. We'll get into that after this short break. Handsome Aaron Airport. Last week, we talked about the young woman in Western Canada named Kenzie who was released from jail due to a fraudulent letter that was sent to the prison saying her charges were dropped. We listened in on some of her TikTok videos where she was bragging about being on the run and taunting the police that they would never find her and so on and so forth. We cringed at her. We made fun of her. We thought the whole thing was incredibly stupid. But I want to hear from a listener named Alex who says, like, in the context of crime and criminals, Kenzie isn't that dumb. Let's listen in on what Alex has to say.
Hi, Jordan and Aaron. This is your correspondent, Alex, from Tucson, Arizona. I'm just listening to the story about the woman who escaped prison or jail and was taunting the RCMP on TikTok. I really don't think that she's showing above average stupidity. I knew somebody who worked in like a correctional adjacent job, and I don't know the truth of this statistic. I'm just taking her word for it. She told me that the majority of escaped convicts are found immediately in their own home. When I lived in Vermont, I worked at a bank, and there was a bank robbery at one of the branches, and they found the robbers by following their footprints in the snow to the Holiday Inn next door. So I do think, yeah, her behavior on social media is unique to her generation, but I don't think that social media has made criminals stupider. I think that this is pretty typical.
It's interesting when you put it in perspective like that. I think Alex helped us realize that, like, Kenzie may not be a like a criminal mastermind, but she's not rock bottom.
Right. Because certainly it's not recommended to videotape yourself on the lam.
No, that's right.
The men who escaped from Alcatraz, and it's theorized or rumored that, they survived the escape and lived full anonymous lives out there in the wild. And certainly if they had social media, I don't think they would have been making TikTok accounts as they're, in the ocean with their homemade rafts that they made out of rain jackets, being like, check it out, man, I'm freezing to death right now in this water, but we're going to be free.
They'll never get me. Yeah. Well, when we were considering whether Kenzie, was the worst criminal ever, or maybe a criminal mastermind, we weren't certain on what led to her becoming on the lam. We know a fraudulent letter showed up at the prison saying something like, the charges were dropped, release her. We thought that either she was involved or responsible or in some way played a role in getting herself released. But as it turns out, we can solve this case because the person behind the fraudulent letter has revealed themselves in a global news report. Let's listen in on it, and then we'll talk a bit about it. I should say, we're going to listen to some video reporting on this case. They leave out some of the biggest, most interesting parts of the story, so we'll fill in some of the blanks after we listen in on Global News sharing more information on this letter that led to Kenzie's release.
A mistakenly released suspect remains on the lam. Now Global News has obtained documents that appear to show how Mackenzie Hardy got out.
That is one pretty professional, believable-looking letter.
Police say a fraudulent letter was to blame, one claiming the charges against Hardy had been paused. Now Global News has been sent a copy of what appears to be that letter, along with emails dated April 25th, the day Hardy was released.
Whoever relied on it, I don't think should be faulted. I think the fault lies with the person who committed the fraud, not the person who fell for it.
The emails show conversations which appear to be between a Crown prosecutor and Justice Department employees. The emails use the name of a real Crown prosecutor, but the email address is a fake, altered to look similar to the standard email addresses used by Crown attorneys. Global News has not verified who the anonymous person is who provided these documents, but we can say metadata in those documents leads us to believe they are the ones used to free Hardy.
There looks like there's been a terrible mistake from the jail. These things happen. They shouldn't happen. There should be checks and balances.
There is a warrant out for Hardy's arrest. Global News spoke with her on Saturday. She maintains she had nothing to do with the letter and found out her release was a mistake 1 week later when she talked to her lawyer.
I seriously think it's a government mess up. Because I was supposed to go for bail 2 weeks after being released. I had a bail plan all worked out with my lawyer.
A statement from the Department of Public Safety says the wrongful release is still being investigated. Some immediate procedural changes have already been implemented. Those changes won't be disclosed for security reasons.
All right, so it's getting interesting. That news clip told us a lot about the actual letter that was sent to the jail and how they convinced the jail that it was legit. Like, they faked some email addresses and made it look like it was the Crown prosecutor and the judge talking back and forth and stuff. So we get that. We get that these documents were sent to Global News anonymously, and Global News believed them to be legit. But what the news clip didn't reveal is that the person who sent them the documents also claimed responsibility for the whole thing and explained why they did it. I'm going to read you a little bit more here. The person who, and this is from the actual written news report rather than the video report. They wrote, the person who sent the documents used a Proton Mail email address, which is often used by people who wish to remain anonymous and be untraceable. Now they're quoting them. What happened wasn't some elaborate scheme on Kenzie Hardy's part. It was me acting alone, and I did it to expose how dangerously unprotected our justice system is, the emailer claimed in their memo sent to Global News and Alberta Justice on Monday night, alleging they had been quietly researching Alberta's courts and corrections processes. The alleged fraudster claimed they didn't know Hardy, have never spoken to her, and picked her as their test subject simply because her court information was readily available. So this reminds me a lot of the last story. It's this anonymous internet hacker, social justice warrior type person who is, again, remaining anonymous, but managed to kind of pull off what they sought to do. This person, in this case, they wanted to prove that there were vulnerabilities in Alberta's court system. They wanted to prove it by doing this. They were successful, obviously. And even in that news clip we heard, the courts and the prison are embarrassed by this, and they've already made changes to how they handle these releases and such, although they wouldn't explain what the changes were for security purposes. But I'm sure whoever did this, like, mission accomplished.
Right. What's when we first covered this story, we were talking about how there's no way she's clever enough to pull this on her own, because at the time we did not know who sent the letter on her behalf. Was this some kind of a way of her, I'm going to get a friend of mine to send in this letter and it's going to get me freed and, et cetera, et cetera. But so we were like, this girl does not seem smart enough to be able to come up with this idea herself and pull it off by herself.
We were right.
So we knew somebody had to be the mastermind. Somebody else had to be the mastermind behind it. But we just assumed that it was somebody that knew her and was close with her and was helping her to get out of jail. But it turns out it's somebody who does not know her at all. They just stumbled across her court information and wanted to use it as an example of how flawed the justice system is.
Yeah, not realizing that she would go on the run and create a TikTok account and like bait the police into trying to catch her. I wonder if this person is like, damn it, I should have just picked another case. But I guess kind of a mission accomplished even more so by picking her because she's made it so high profile.
Right.
Like, she's even given an interview to Global News while on the run.
That's what I was just going to bring up. So the police can't catch her, but Global News got her? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, it's like, I'm not even going to play it because it's so cringy, but she's like sitting in a car holding her phone being interviewed and kind of just saying like what you'd expect. Like, they shouldn't have released me. It was their fault. They released me. It's not like I broke out of jail. Yeah, it's all just so silly. I think the most interesting part is this anonymous person screwing with the system to prove a point and having it just be like such an incredible success.
Yeah.
As far as what they set out to do. But I looked at Kenzie's, like, of course she's on TikTok doing this. I looked at her TikTok to see what she's been up to before we went to air tonight. And no surprise at all, she's still going. Her most recent posts involve a GoFundMe fundraising campaign to support her legal fight that's ahead of her. If you have the show notes in front of you, I took a few excerpts of the description for her GoFundMe. If you want to read it off, it's exactly what you'd expect.
Yeah. So it says
she's trying to raise $5,000, but you can read what she's going to use it for.
Hi. My name is Kenzie, and many of you may have seen my story on TikTok. I've been charged with possessing stolen property, but the truth is, I didn't know the vehicle I bought was stolen. Then things got worse. Due to a mistaken release after my initial arrest, I was suddenly painted as someone who was running from the law. I think she did that herself, didn't she? By literally saying, I'm running from the law. Come and catch me, blah, blah, blah. Even though that was completely out of my control, I was released by mistake. And
yeah, that's just so ridiculous. She's like, I'm not on the run from the law. I was released by mistake.
Yeah.
it's you didn't go back though.
Yeah.
You set up a TikTok account and you're like, you'll never get me.
Yeah. She's absolutely running. And so then it continues on. And now a recent news article has confirmed everything I've been saying. Someone else came forward and admitted they were involved with the release documentation and that I had nothing to do with it. At the same time, the person I love most, my boyfriend, is battling cancer. This GoFundMe is to help us cover legal fees, medical expenses for David, travel, hotels, and food, and basic living expenses. The support from TikTok is already giving me strength, and I believe that with the truth and your help, we can get through this.
Yes. And I will say she's trying to raise $5,000. When I checked it a couple hours ago, so far she's received one donation of $50. So she has a long way to go.
Really? I thought she would have gotten more than that, to be honest.
I don't think that's against the rules for me to check it. Let's see.
Yeah, take a look.
Yeah, no, still just one donation for $50. She's 1% to her goal.
Wow. And of all the coverage that she has and all the people that know who she is, you would think that she would have more people.
No, just like you said last week, the people who are like, yeah, keep going. They don't support this. They're just like gawking at it. They're just like with a sense of morbid curiosity. But the big thing that's revealed, even through her GoFundMe, she doesn't seem to get it. It's being on the run is different than being responsible for the letter. It's like a different thing. She's like, you know, it's come out now that I wasn't responsible for the letter, so I need to clear my name.
Yeah, she once it was determined that this was a fake letter and it was a mistake, she should have turned around and gone back and turned herself in immediately.
Being mistakenly released doesn't make being on the lam like irrelevant, or it cancel it out. Anyway, it's the whole thing is ridiculous. But I do imagine we'll be revisiting this story because I think when she is finally busted, there will probably be some news coverage. But before we move on from this topic and get into the story of an animal attack, I have one more voicemail related to Kenzie being on the lam. And this is a great idea from a listener. Listen to this.
Hi, Jordan and Aaron. I'm just listening to your most recent episode of Keep Canada Weird, and Kenzie's on the lam. I love your take on it, where like if she was making her own video and then the cops show up, but like what I would love to see is like the cops making a TikTok, like chasing her, like have their own channel and like chase her and then post when they actually arrest her. I'm sure that's against some sort of civil rights or something, but it seems worth it in the end. So have a great day.
I do love that idea. If like the main cop assigned to this case, if they let him or her make a TikTok account to just, you know, get people following like the different tips and leads, and they could even kind of like crowdsource the investigation. This cop could break down her videos and maybe ask people in the comments, like, if you recognize this place in the background, you know, chime in the comments. I could see people getting behind the cop, and he or she would have more followers than her, and they would get her.
Mm-hmm. I mean, all the police officers have to do now going forward is reach out to her pretending to be a news reporter.
Yeah, so we want to interview you in person for the news about your GoFundMe.
Be like, all right, right on.
It would work.
Yeah, 100%. It's been proven. Global News is like, can we interview you? Yeah, sure. Aren't you on the run? Mm-hmm.
It's all ridiculous. let's get out of this story and move on to something that's a little more serious. We have the story of a moose attack, and this one is pretty shocking. It comes out of Edmonton. A wild situation's been playing out that highlights the struggle to raise children in Edmonton. Well, if you're a moose. Here's the story of a moose attack.
A moose and her calf have been roaming the river valley near Hea Sung's house. That is, until the mom got a lot closer to him.
We eye contact, and she just runs at me. So I tried behind this tree, but then I lost conscious.
While working in his backyard, Hea Sung came face to face with Mama Moose protecting her calf. Sung says he can't believe he survived a moose attack.
My experience, horrible. I am thinking I'm a lucky guy. I'm still standing here talking to you. I could be dead.
He suffered 3 broken ribs, a bump on the head, and 2 black eyes, along with a large gash in his leg.
So I got some first aid, got some bandages and taped him up a little bit for his leg. And then my wife called 911.
Unfortunately, the calf was in a motor vehicle collision early Tuesday morning along Wayne Gretzky Drive.
And the calf did not survive. So it's just a cow moose now that we're trying to relocate.
And the baby was just so new, like little gangly legs just going. So it was sad. It's sad.
A number of trails near Wayne Gretzky Drive and Roland Road are closed as Alberta Fish and Wildlife search for the moose. Sung is now already back working in his yard.
I was in hospital. I was laughing. Jesus, what am I doing? I mean, my kids came to me and they couldn't believe it.
It's a lot of ups and downs in that one, and that's why I wanted to get into it. So this seems to be a moose and its baby. We're kind of trapped within an Edmonton area, within an Edmonton neighborhood, and managed to just bring with them incredible chaos. For one, they wander into this man's yard, and it seems like we don't even really get what happens because the man loses consciousness basically at the beginning of it. It seems like the moose rams him. But then, unrelated to that, the moose's baby gets hit by a car the next day. Like, that's just a lot going on in this one neighborhood with this one moose and baby.
I somehow hold Wayne Gretzky responsible for pretty much this entire thing.
Because he sold out Canada.
Yeah. And it's not a coincidence that all of this happened on, what do they call it? Wayne Gretzky Boulevard?
Wayne Gretzky Way or Wayne Gretzky Boulevard. But yeah, it's this little old man who was bludgeoned almost to death in his backyard by the moose. Man, he's lucky to be alive. Like, that thing just bumps against you and it kicks the crap out of you. For people listening, you see him in the news clip. It seems like what he's doing is he's just in the backyard, like setting up like a little garden flower bed sort of thing. But it's he has 2 black eyes, crazy cut on his arm. I don't know if the thing bit him or what, but yeah, he's lucky.
Oh, yeah.
What a horrible way to go.
Oh, yeah, trampled and beaten by a moose to death. If you ever stood face to face with a moose, I've only done it at the wildlife park where it's behind a cage. And they're massive. They're so big, and cartoons really don't do them justice of how big and powerful these animals are. So, it's terrifying, when the animal uprising does occur. The moose are going to be right there up front, just trampling everything in front of them, flattening human civilization. And then the rest of the animals will just pick up the pieces.
Yeah, they're like the steamrollers of the animal kingdom. Terrifying thought to have in our head as we enter our second and final ad break of the night.
Yeah, I just can't believe Wayne Gretzky killed a baby moose.
Mm-hmm, and trampled that man.
And it was definitely Wayne Gretzky beating him with a hockey stick and then blaming the moose. This is typical Wayne Gretzky. And he's just yelling 51st State as he's pounding this guy with a hockey stick.
All right, let's take our second and final ad break. When we get back, we're going to have the latest stupid internet trend after this break. Handsome Air and Airport. It seems like we often target teenagers in our expose of the stupid trends that are spreading on social media. But tonight, we have restless adults to gawk at. There's a new trend that involves literally taping your mouth shut before you go to bed, and it's thought by some to improve your sleep. Here's the story about the mouth taping trend.
If you search mouth taping,
one of the interesting things I came across on the internet was this idea of taping your mouth shut while you're asleep.
There are plenty of online claims about the benefits.
But what I will say is the main thing I have felt is my sleep has never been better.
But before you hop on the bandwagon in search of a better night's rest, doctors say you might want to think twice about taping your mouth shut.
Head and neck surgeon Dr. Brian Rotenberg led a systematic review of research.
Long story short, 80% of the papers published did not show any benefit to this practice. 20% did show a slight benefit, likely statistically beneficial, but not really clinically beneficial.
About 3 years ago, his patients started talking about mouth taping.
The issue is that many people out there, for many numbers of reasons, they just can't breathe through their nose. And so they're looking to find ways to breathe better through their noses.
Rotenberg says there are real breathing problems, and the risk comes when the root cause is not identified and addressed.
Mouth taping is not going to solve a deviated septum. It is not going to solve nasal polyps, and it for sure won't solve a nasal tumor, and it may actually exacerbate your sleep apnea. So instead of taping your mouth, see your healthcare provider, see your physician, and actually get the thing looked into in the first place.
You could never estimate or you could never guess what is going to become like a social media trend. This would be somewhere between trend and like kind of like life hack, I guess. This idea of taping your mouth shut so you sleep better by forcing your body to breathe through the nose. It's just all so stupid. I would never try that. I feel like I'd die in my sleep if I did that.
Yeah, I can see the theory or the logic behind it as to why it could work, because you should be breathing. It's preferable that you breathe through your nose and not your mouth.
Yeah, and I think most people do. Like when you're asleep, you're breathing through your nose, right? But and if you're not, I don't think it's because you have your mouth open or something. Like I feel like the people who have trouble breathing through their nose, it's not that they need to shut their mouth. There's probably more going on, just like that doctor said.
Yeah, the thing that this really does, though, is, and the most negative impact of people taping their mouths shut before they go to sleep is you're making it easier for the robbers and the kidnappers for when they enter your home. Mm-hmm. Your mouth is already taped, so all they have to do is bind your hands, and then the robber or the kidnapper is saving on duct tape this way.
Oh, so are you suggesting that maybe this is a trend that was kickstarted by some group of hyper intelligent kidnapper burglars? And they're like, we can trick everyone into doing our work for us. Yeah. The next trend we should come up with is like, protect your valuables by leaving them by the front door.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, this trend is clearly not the work of any kind of medical professional. If anything, it's kidnappers and burglars and Satanists that came up with this.
Yeah, it's mostly Satanists, but certainly imagine you're asleep and you can't even scream. You know, if you get night terrors, what are you going to do? It's going to make the whole experience worse, because then it's going to feel like somebody's covering your mouth with their hand while your shadow people, sleep paralysis demons are coming into the room,
and also I'm thinking, like, what could I put on my face that would keep my mouth shut, that wouldn't irritate my skin so badly that it would, I'd end up worse off for it. Like if you actually use tape across your mouth for like the 8 or 9 hours you should be asleep, could you imagine the state of your skin in the morning?
Yeah, and I have a beard, so imagine how painful this tape would be to remove every morning.
Yeah, ouch! Yeah,
I can finally scream. Ouch!
The whole thing is stupid. But again, it's just social media trends and what catches on. It's just throwing a million crazy things against the wall, and every so often some weird thing sticks. Maybe it's some crazy crazy spicy chip. Maybe it's some weird challenge to, do some dangerous, stupid thing. Of course, there was a time when it was people putting like the clothes, the laundry detergent, the Tide Pods in their mouths.
The Tide Pods, yeah.
There were. We're gonna start winding down the episode, but before we do, we'd like to end with either seniors eating ice cream or rants. That seems to be our thing lately, right?
Yeah. It's very KCW.
You want both?
Of course I do.
Okay. Let's start with a rant. This one doesn't come from a Keep Canada Weird listener. This actually comes from an Air Canada pilot. I'm just curious what you think of this story. It's interesting how all this played out. A CBC journalist was on a flight, an Air Canada flight, and there was a bit of a delay before the plane actually took off, and the pilot decided to get on the in-plane speaker system thing where they give you the message. Is that a PA? What would you call that?
I think you nailed it with in-house speaker thingy dingy or whatever you called it.
The pilot decided to get on that in-house speaker thing and rant. Here's the story of Air Canada's pilot's rant.
It costs the company a lot of money. It costs business people a lot of money.
Delayed and disillusioned, an Air Canada pilot vents to passengers stuck on the tarmac at Vancouver International Airport.
Since we got the time, if you want to write a letter to your MP and tell them what's going on, maybe they could address this problem.
The problem? A shortage of air traffic control workers. Delays and cancellations at YVR have been mounting for weeks, leading to this rant captured by a CBC reporter.
We believe that there's a lot of evidence that the people in charge of air traffic control, NAV Canada, are keeping, like the air traffic controllers are keeping the numbers low to keep the overtime up.
A charge denied by NAV Canada, the private nonprofit that operates air navigation across the country. It is in the midst of a major recruitment blitz to ease its labor crunch. In a statement, it said, "We leave no stone unturned in supporting a candidate's success." There are about 2,000 air traffic controllers in Canada. Their union says hundreds more are needed to clear these planes for takeoff.
So when Keep Canada Weird listeners rant, they do a way better job than this guy. But the difference is this rant's happening before this person takes you into the, however high it is, 100 million feet into the air as a plane typically flies. Would you be comfortable continuing the flight?
I thought that the pilot's rant was very professional, actually. They're frustrated with the situation and they stayed calm in their rant. So to me, that's who I want behind the wheel of an airplane, is somebody who stays calm when they're frustrated. And that's what I thought that this pilot showed. And I really respect that. And I would feel very comfortable going anywhere with him, not just on a plane.
I just think it's the optics of them being dissatisfied and frustrated when they're about to take off. I get that it was his opportunity to have a platform to tell people what was going on, and the context was probably good as well. Like it was in the middle of a delay, so there was some downtime, and he probably, or as we hear him say, he believes that political pressure could prevent situations like the one he and the passengers of the plane were in. So yeah, I guess he went for it. I feel like I'd want to, if I was sitting there, I'm a bit of a nervous flyer. I think I'd be like, how mad is he? Like, is he he's mad enough to do something that probably would get him in trouble. Like, I imagine he got a little slap on the wrist by somebody.
He works for a different organization than what the air traffic controllers work for, so he's probably free to say whatever he wants about it.
Oh, no, there must be rules about what they can say. Like, even though he doesn't work for whoever the air traffic controllers work for, there's probably still like a code of conduct and stuff about how you address or how you communicate with the passengers on the plane.
Sure.
I doubt you're allowed to be like, write to your MP and they're doing this so they can make more money and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like an airplane is kind of a sacred space for rules being followed and everything being doubled and triple checked so that you don't fall from the sky.
Yeah, when I flew to Toronto recently, we were sitting on the plane, on the runway, kind of waiting to get the clearance. The pilot would have been waiting for air traffic controllers in Toronto to give them the okay, and we had to sit there for about an extra 25 minutes before we were able to get the clearance to fly. So, but it's not just happening in Canada, though. This is happening in the United States as well, where there's a shortage of air traffic controllers, and it's causing all types of issues with air
Weird.
traffic.
Yeah, I wonder what's going on because you hear that an air traffic controller is like one of the most stressful jobs, and there's long hours and high pressure. But just all of a sudden, it seems like there's my whole life I don't remember ever hearing about a shortage or any of this stuff. So something's going on within that profession, and hopefully they fix it up so we can all fly safely. Well, a rant's a dark way to end. So let's hear a story from a listener from Saskatchewan. Her name is Heather, and she has an interesting take on the seniors eating ice cream trend that we've been discussing on the show. I like where she takes it because she wants to not so much talk about what they eat or why they eat it. She's focused specifically on how her grandmother eats ice cream. Listen to this.
Hi, Jordan and Aaron. This is Heather, your Keep Canada Weird correspondent from Saskatchewan. I'm just calling with a story about the elderly eating ice cream. My granny, as long as I can remember, has always really loved ice cream. And so one thing we'd always do together is go out for ice cream. No matter where we went, she'd always order like a small ice cream cone. And they'd always give her like the hugest scoop of ice cream on a cone. And it was always so big, and she'd always look at it and say, I can never finish this. But she always managed to. But one thing that always stood out to me with her eating ice cream is she would always kind of take big bites out of it, kind of chomping it with her front teeth. And I remember as a kid thinking, that looks interesting. I'm going to try it. So I'd try chomping the ice cream myself, and I'd always end up in a lot of pain because my teeth were so sensitive to the cold. It wasn't until I was quite a bit older that I realized my granny had some false teeth, and that's why she was able to chomp the ice cream the way she did. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.
The direction that this show can take is so fascinating to me, but that's one of my favorite seniors eating an ice cream story because it is so detailed and almost technical. Like I can imagine the moment she describes her grandmother getting like the way too much ice cream, like, I'll never finish that, then kills it. And this idea of her just with her fake teeth digging into the ice cream without any sensitivity repercussions of it. I love that story.
She would still get an ice cream headache, though, even with her false teeth.
Don't you hate that sensation?
Oh, God. Something so delicious could be so painful.
It's one of the most painful feelings. I wonder, like, I know science has explained it, but I had kidney stones before, and they say that's one of the most painful things. I would describe kidney stones as feeling like an extended ice cream headache in your belly.
Okay.
That's kind of how it felt. It was like an ice cream headache, except like with an ice cream headache, for a second, you're like, oh my God, I'm probably going to die, but it's probably an ice cream headache. It's going to go away. And then it goes away. Kidney stones are like that in your belly, except instead of it just being like for 6 seconds, it's like for like hours.
Okay. So should we switch off of voicemails about seniors eating ice cream and now only accept voicemails about kidney stones?
I'd rather voicemails about ice cream headaches.
Oh.
Did you ever get one while driving? And
I would never eat ice cream while I'm driving. That's chaotic.
Because of that?
No, because it's going to drip all over me and there's nothing I can do. If I'm sitting over a table, I can eat over the table so it drips onto the table. If I'm standing, I can hold the ice cream at a certain angle so that it's dripping on the ground. But if I'm driving...
Yeah, you're defenseless.
Yeah, there's nothing I can do. I'm covered in dots of ice cream when I get out of the car.
All on your seat, on your your new pants.
My brand new pants for work.
No, I'd say keep the stories coming. Seniors eating ice cream headache stories, driving while eating ice cream stories,
seniors
rants,
getting kidney stones.
Keep them coming. But I think we've been through a lot tonight. I'm most proud of us for solving 2 stories with the help of the media.
Yeah, with the help of somebody else doing all of the solving.
Whatever. Yeah. We'll take credit for it.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
It's been a great night, Aaron. We're about to begin work on our next Keep Canada Weird mailbag episode. That's coming soon. But we got a lot of work cut out for us. Let's get a good sleep. I'm going to go tape my mouth shut and kickstart my morning to get started on this. You want to wrap this up?
Let's put a bow on it.
Handsome Aaron Airport. Until next time.
Jordan Bus Stop Backhoe Bonaparte. Until next time.
Next time you're online and you see like 100 million weirdos in the comments saying stupid stuff, think that there's probably one person, probably silently lurking, who really knows how all that stuff works. Maybe they're going to get someone out of jail fraudulently. Maybe they're going to solve a crime. But whoever they are, they're probably not in the comments spouting off.
And Jordan, until next time, I'm just getting word from an air traffic controller that the Keep Canada Weird plane of this week's episode is all finished up and just about to land, safe and sound.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird. If you got a news story from your area that you'd like to share with us, or have any thoughts or theories or opinions on anything we discussed tonight, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us by using the voice recorder that can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. And on that topic, I want to give a big thank you to this episode's correspondents. If your voice message was aired tonight, you can email me your address. My email is nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get a Keep Canada Weird badge and swag pack sent out to you. I just ask that you wear the badge proudly and responsibly. Next, a big thanks goes out to Aaron for another great night, Unicole for the intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Data for the outro version of O Canada. And then, of course, a sincere and massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening. Your support makes this show possible. And if you'd like to support the show even more, please consider a subscription to the premium feed, which can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. The premium feed costs just a couple dollars a month, but that money will fund the creation of new episodes of the show, and it'll give you those episodes 2 days early, ad-free, and access to a back catalog of episodes. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media. That helps a lot too, and it's free. Your support is very much appreciated. So with all that said, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and together, let's keep Canada weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.
And now to our viewers and listeners everywhere. Good night.
You know, I've been talking for a while about I'm going to start numbering rather than dating the episodes, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
I can't believe we've done 165 of these.
I know. How many more will we do?
Honestly, do you think we'll get to 1,000?
Whew, that's a lot. Because
so
165, how many years have we been doing this?
Well, we do one a week. There's 52 weeks in the year, so we've been doing it 3 years.
Yeah.
Ish.
Roughly. Mm-hmm.
So 1,000 would take us, my math sucks, is that 20 years?
It's going to take us a long time. I can't see us reaching 1,000.
I think we will.
You think so?
Why would we stop?
I don't know. Car accident.
So literally, would it be, I guess the question is, do you think one of us will die before we get to episode 1,000? Do you think one of us will die in the next 20 years? I have nothing else to do.
I know, me either. I love this show, and I do want to do it forever. But here's what I want the listeners to call in and tell us. Who do they think is going to die first, me or you? And how will we die?
Okay, here, let's give them a bit of information. You're a bit older than me, 2 years older?
Yeah, I'm 1 year older than you. I'm 45.
Okay, but you get more exercise and you eat better. And you sleep better.
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
But then again, I have kids and a puppy.
Mhm.
So that they say like that keeps you young. Just and also like a good indication of lifespan is how old like your family, like genetic stuff. Do you have any grandparents? Are you fortunate enough to have grandparents with us?
No.
Okay, I have one. And your parents are here and my parents are here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's just I just wanted to give that information to the listeners. But yeah, let us know who you think will outlive the other.
Who's going to die first and how will they die? That's also key.
For a new kid's sweater.
Yeah, well, anybody gets a new kid's piece of merch when they call in now. It's ridiculous.